Hello, and this is the second chapter for The Worst Class Trip Ever. And this is Mrs. Yetter reading it for you. So let's all turn to page 34, chapter 2 of The Worst Class Trip Ever, and we shall continue. Chapter 2. The only good part about what happened next was the federal marshal decided not to arrest me and Matt. He said he seriously considered it, but in the end he decided to let us off with just a lecture on the general theme that we were a pair of idiots. The worst part was when I had to call my parents from the airport and tell them that Mr. Bartow was maybe going to send me and Matt home from Washington. I didn't really need my phone after I said that because I could have heard my mother, did I mention she's Cuban, yelling all the way from Miami. Basically, she said she was going to kill me and ground me and take away my Xbox for the next 300 years, which didn't make any sense, but it was not a good time to point that out to my mom. After that, Matt and I had to listen to another lecture, this one from Mr. Bartow, which he delivered to us next to the bus at the airport with the entire class trip sitting on the bus watching and making faces. Mr. Bartow said he was extremely disappointed in us because we were ambassadors for the Culver Middle School and it was a privilege to be on this trip, and if we pulled one more stupid stunt, he was going to blah, blah, blah. In the end, he said we could stay on the trip. He claimed this was because he was a forgiving man, but I think mainly he was a man who didn't want to deal with trying to get us home. I was just glad I wouldn't have to face my mom yet. When Matt and I finally got on the bus, the only seat left was, of course, right behind Cameron Frank, whose general area smelled like a porta potty in July. And of course, Susanna was sitting far away with the other hot girls near Jean-Philippe. But at least we were on the bus instead of on a plane home. I was starting to feel less bad, maybe even almost a little good. That feeling lasted about 30 seconds. I didn't see them coming. The bus driver had just closed the door. I was looking forward when Matt, who was sitting next to the window, grabbed my arm. Uh-oh, he said. What? He pointed out the window. I almost yelped when I saw them. The two weird guys from the plane, running toward our bus, looking very unhappy. Their eyes were scanning the windows, and it wasn't hard to figure out who they were looking for. I was about to tell Matt to duck, but it was too late. The little guy saw us. He ran straight to our window. He was holding up his backpack and pointing to it and yelling something at us. The big guy was right behind him. They looked really mad. What do they want? I said. Matt didn't say anything. Just then the bus started moving. This totally freaked out the two guys. They started running toward the front, shouting, but the bus was pulling away into the airport traffic. The weird guys started to chase us, but they ran into a cop directing traffic. We saw him block their way, holding up his hands for them to stop. They were arguing with him and pointing at us. The last thing I saw before we got out of sight was the little guy's face. He looked really, really, really mad. Mr. Bartow and Miss Rector at the front of the bus missed all of this. The kids around us saw it, and they were asking us what was going on. I said I didn't know, that maybe the guys were still mad about what happened on the plane. Matt still didn't say anything, which, if you know anything about Matt, is very unusual. Suddenly, I had a bad feeling. Wait a minute, I said to Matt, keeping it quiet. You know what that was about, don't you? Maybe? I grabbed his arm. What? What? Okay, let go. He yanked his arm away. He looked around to make sure nobody was looking our way, then reached into his pocket and pulled something out. He kept it low and showed it to me. It was some kind of electronic thing, a greenish brown box with a little plexiglass dome on the top and some switches and buttons on the side. "Where'd you get that?" I said, even though I pretty much knew. "From the weird guy's backpack. It was in the outside pocket." "Why'd you take it?" "I thought it may be a detonator. I thought he was going to blow something up with it." "Blow up what? His dragon head?" "I didn't know what he had a dragon head in there." I looked at the box. "Why didn't you tell the marshal about it?" "I was gonna, but you told me to shut up. Then I decided it was better to just keep quiet about it. I didn't want to get in any more trouble." We both looked at the box for a few minutes. "Maybe I should just throw it away," he said. I shook my head. He seemed really upset about losing it. It might be valuable. We should give it back." "How?" "I don't know." "How would we even find those guys?" "I don't know." "Do we even want to find those guys?" I looked out the window. The bus was out of the airport now, on a highway. I thought about the two weird guys back there, probably still arguing with the cop. I pictured the little guy's face, the way he looked at us as the bus pulled away. "Not really," I said. "I hope we never see those guys again." And that concludes chapter 2 of The Worst Class Trip Ever.